I had always believed that he was the one. The love of my life, the person I would grow old with. But he chose her over me. In the end, it wasn't the betrayal that hurt the most, but the realization that I wasn't enough for him. I'd been blind to the signs, giving him the best parts of me, while he slowly pulled away. When he told me he was leaving, I held my composure. I smiled weakly and nodded, pretending that it didn't cut me like a knife. But as soon as he walked out the door, the mask slipped. I let myself cry. I let the tears wash away the anger, the hurt, the shame. I let them flow because I knew that the only way to heal was to feel everything at once. But the next morning, something inside me shifted. I didn't want to be the one who was left broken. I didn't want to let him win, to let her win. If he thought he could take everything from me, then I would take everything from him. Every ounce of pride, every piece of control, every last shred of dignity he had. And I was going to make it hurt. I started small. First, I made sure his friends knew the truth. His perfect little image of being the charming, loyal guy who would never hurt anyone. I shattered it, piece by piece. I shared screenshots of the texts where he promised me everything, only to turn around and betray me. I let his lies speak for themselves, knowing that the truth, no matter how ugly, always found its way to the surface. Then came the big move. I went to his job. I knew his connections, his networks. I started planting seeds of doubt. I didn't need to be overt, just a whisper here and there. A casual comment about his character, his tendencies to cheat, his lack of integrity. His colleagues started pulling back, not sure who to trust anymore. It wasn't long before whispers turned into questions, and soon, questions turned into concerns. Meanwhile, I kept my distance from him. I didn't beg for him back. I didn't chase him. But I watched him, studied his every move, waiting for the right time to strike. And strike, I did. He thought he had it all, her, the job, the life he had always dreamed of. But one by one, it all started to fall apart. His reputation, the trust of his friends, the admiration of his coworkers. All of it slipping through his fingers like sand, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. When I finally saw him again, he was a shell of the man he used to be. The arrogant smile was gone. The confidence was shattered. His eyes were dull, his posture slumped. He came to me, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, as if I could erase the pain he caused with a few words. But I didn't need his apology. I had already taken everything he held dear. His career, his friends, his pride. And now he was just another man who had underestimated me. I watched him walk away, defeated, and for the first time in a long while I felt peace. Not happiness, not joy, but peace. Because I knew I had one. I had taken back what was rightfully mine, my dignity, my strength, and my sense of self-worth. And as for him, he was just a memory. A broken memory, and I wasn't going to let him haunt me anymore. Weeks passed since the day he walked away. I kept my distance, just as I had promised myself I would. I didn't call him, I didn't chase him. I refused to be the one who begged. But every day, I felt the shift. I saw his life crumble, slowly and steadily, and it was impossible not to feel a sense of satisfaction. People started to notice. His friends, the ones who used to support him unconditionally, began to ask questions. The whispers turned into full-blown conversations, and soon, no one was willing to stand by him. They saw him for what he truly was: a liar, a cheater, someone who thought he could have it all. But now, his perfect life was slipping through his fingers like water. It was the job that really shook him. I'd made sure that the rumors about him spread far and wide, from the boardroom to the break room. His colleagues started distancing themselves from him, and his bosses began questioning his integrity. It was only a matter of time before they'd have no choice but to let him go. And then there was her. The one he'd left me for. She thought she was the one who had won, that she had gotten the prize. But what she didn't realize was that she was just a pawn in this game. I knew it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about making sure that he never, ever had the life he thought he deserved. I started subtly weaving myself into her world. I didn't need to do it overtly, no, that would be too obvious. I didn't need to show up at her doorstep or make a scene. Instead, I took the quiet route. I shared a post here and there. A photo. A quote. A reminder to everyone, including her, that I was still very much a part of the narrative. She thought she had everything, but the reality was that she was walking on a tightrope. Her every step, her every word, was now being scrutinized. It wasn't long before the cracks began to show. She called me once, her voice shaking with the panic of someone who realized they weren't as secure as they thought they were. She tried to make me feel small, as if I was still the one who had lost. But it was clear, I was no longer the one on the receiving end of hurt. She was. And I had no intention of stopping. I remember the exact moment when everything changed for her. It was a work event, one of those company celebrations that were supposed to bring everyone together. But it was more than that for me. I saw it as an opportunity, and I wasn't about to let it slip. I showed up. Not with a grand entrance, but subtly. I didn't need to draw attention to myself. No, I was there to plant the seeds. I caught her off guard when she saw me, her face going pale as I casually approached her, a knowing smile on my lips. She tried to act unfazed to keep up appearances, but I could see the cracks. And I could feel the power shifting. I knew exactly what I was doing. Slowly, quietly, I made sure everyone at the event knew the truth about her, about the man she thought she was winning. I shared the stories, the whispers, the things that people had forgotten but I had never let go. I wasn't even angry. I wasn't trying to get revenge. I was just reminding everyone of the truth. By the end of the night, she was in tears. She wasn't the one who had the upper hand anymore. Her world was crumbling around her, just like his had. And I, the one he had thought he could leave behind, was standing tall. Strong. Untouched. When I saw him again, he was nothing more than a shadow of the man I had once loved. The arrogance was gone. The confidence? Shattered. He came to me, apologizing, trying to fix things. But I wasn't interested in his apologies. I wasn't interested in his guilt. Because I had already taken everything from him, just as he had taken everything from me. And in the end, I was the one who walked away victorious. It felt surreal, watching him beg for forgiveness. He was no longer the man I had once admired, the man I had spent sleepless nights dreaming of a future with. The man in front of me was broken, desperate, and empty. And yet, in that moment, I couldn't help but feel a sense of power, the kind of power that only comes when you have nothing left to lose. I had been through hell, but I had risen from the ashes, stronger than ever. While he wallowed in the consequences of his own choices, I continued to thrive. Every time I thought I was done, I found new ways to keep going, to keep winning. It was only when I saw her, his new woman, that I realized just how much my life had changed. She wasn't the threat I had once feared. No, she was just another piece in the puzzle, another casualty of the game we had been playing. I'd spent so many years questioning myself, wondering where I'd gone wrong, why I hadn't been enough. But now, I saw the truth. I had been enough. I had always been enough. The only person who had ever made me feel like I wasn't was him. And now, I was reclaiming everything. My life, my confidence, my dignity. The very things he had stolen from me. As time passed, I watched him fade into the background. His career, once on a promising path, had come to a screeching halt. His friends, the ones who had once supported him, turned their backs. His family? Silent. He was no longer the golden boy, the man who could do no wrong. He was just a cautionary tale. And her? She was left to pick up the pieces, just like I had been. I didn't feel sorry for her. In fact, I almost felt pity. She thought she was the winner. But in reality, she was just another casualty of his lies. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to throw it in their faces. The truth was there, for everyone to see. And I had made sure of it. Now, when I look at my life, I see a future that is mine. A future that he will never be a part of. I've rebuilt everything from the ground up. And the best part? I did it all without him. He had destroyed me once, but I was done being a victim. I had taken everything he held dear, and I was walking away with my head held high. And as for him? He'll never know peace again. It's funny how quickly someone can change when they realize the world has stopped revolving around them. The things he once cherished, the things he once thought were untouchable, were now nothing more than a distant memory. And as I watched his life crumble before him, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. He had wanted it all, my love, my trust, my loyalty, but in the end, he had thrown it all away. For her, for someone who had no idea what it meant to fight for something worth keeping. I had been the one who fought, the one who gave everything. But now, I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Every step I took, every decision I made, was a testament to how far I had come. His downfall wasn't just a result of my actions, it was his own doing. He had left me to pick up the pieces of our life, and in doing so he had unknowingly paved the way for his own destruction. I didn't need to destroy him. He had done that to himself. All I had to do was wait. Wait for the cracks to show. Wait for him to realize that the life he had taken for granted was no longer his to hold. And when the day came, when the consequences finally caught up to him, I didn't rejoice. I didn't dance in the streets or make some grand gesture. No, I simply moved forward. I took my power back, piece by piece, and reclaimed the life he had tried to steal from me. But the best part? He didn't even see it coming. He thought he was the one in control, the one calling the shots, but in reality, I had always been the one pulling the strings. I had been the one who built a life worth living. I had been the one who took the hits, who fought through the pain, and who rose from the ashes stronger than ever. And now, I was the one walking away with everything, my dignity, my strength, my future. As for him, he would always be a reminder of the past I had left behind. A reminder that no one is untouchable. No one is above the consequences of their actions. And no one ever gets away with betrayal. I had learned that lesson the hard way. But now, it was his turn to learn it. The final blow was always the most difficult to execute. It's one thing to watch someone slip, to observe as they lose their grip on everything they once held dear. But when the moment arrives for you to deal the final blow, to seal their fate, there's always a moment of hesitation. But not for me. I had been patient. I had waited for this day, for him to feel the weight of his decisions. And when it came, I was ready. I knew the pieces of his life better than anyone. The house he worked tirelessly for, the friends who still swore loyalty to him despite his mistakes, the job he thought was invincible, all of it, everything, was mine for the taking. I had nothing to lose anymore, and I wasn't about to let him walk away scot-free. I started small. A few emails here and there to the people in his circle who owed me favors. A few whispers to his colleagues about things they had missed, opportunities he had failed to capitalize on, mistakes he had been too proud to acknowledge. His career, once set in stone, began to crack, then crumble. I didn't need to make a scene. I didn't need to confront him in some dramatic showdown. No, I was better than that. I made sure everything he cared about was slipping out of his grasp without him even knowing it. The funds he thought he had secured were suddenly redirected. His so-called perfect image began to tarnish, bit by bit, as his world started to unravel in the most subtle of ways. And the best part? He didn't know where to start fixing it. He had thought everything was under his control, that no one could touch his life, his empire. But the truth was, all it took was a few gentle nudges from me to show him just how fragile everything really was. The weeks went by slowly, but each day I felt the weight of his downfall becoming more and more tangible. The calls, the emails, the small ripple effects of my actions, they were all adding up, piece by piece, until his life was a puzzle that no longer fit together. And I was the one who had rearranged the pieces. I didn't feel guilty. Not in the slightest. At first I thought about confronting him. Showing up, telling him exactly what I had done, watching him squirm under the weight of his own mistakes. But then I realized I didn't need that. I didn't need the satisfaction of his apology, of his desperate pleas. I had already won, without ever needing to say a word. The girl he left me for? She was nothing more than a distraction. She was a fleeting part of his story, one that would fade as quickly as it had appeared. I knew her type all too well, easy to impress, desperate for attention, and too naive to see what was really happening. He would break her the same way he broke me, and I would be there to watch it happen. I didn't need to rush. Everything was going according to plan. His friends, the ones who had stood by him when everything seemed perfect, were starting to question him. It wasn't immediate, but the whispers began. The way he had lied to them, the way he had betrayed his own integrity for the sake of a shiny new relationship. Suddenly, people started to take notice. And then one night, I received a call from one of his old friends. The one who had always been closest to him, the one who would never, under normal circumstances, turn on him. "Hey, I don't know what's going on with him," he said, his voice shaky. "But I can't be part of it anymore. He's not who he used to be." It was music to my ears. It's funny how quickly people turn. One minute, you're the center of their world, the next you're nothing more than a casualty in their pursuit of something better. He thought he could just replace me, as though I were a discarded jacket, one that no longer fit. But what he didn't know was that I wasn't just going to vanish. I wasn't the type to just walk away quietly. Every choice he made, every step he took toward that new life with her, was like fuel to the fire I had started. I had been patient, waiting for the right moment, and now the time had come to set everything in motion. The once perfect life he had built was slowly crumbling around him, and I was the architect of his downfall. At first, it was small things, missed opportunities, ruined plans, tiny cracks in his professional life. But as the weeks went by, those cracks became chasms, and I could feel his life slipping through his fingers like sand. But it wasn't just him I was targeting. No, I had a bigger plan, one that involved taking everything he valued. He had always prided himself on his career, on the people who admired him, the image he projected of success. He was always the one with the answers, the one everyone looked up to. He thought he was untouchable, and I was going to show him just how wrong he was. I started with his work. I knew his schedule, his weaknesses, and I knew exactly where to hit him where it would hurt the most. The emails I sent to his colleagues. They were harmless on the surface, but they were calculated. I made sure the right people saw the inconsistencies, the lies he had built his career on. I wasn't just ruining his reputation. I was erasing the very foundation he had built his life upon. By the time he realized what was happening, it was too late. His colleagues were already questioning him, pulling back from his ideas, and his once sterling reputation had begun to tarnish. He tried to salvage it, of course, but the more he tried to fight back, the deeper he sank. The more he protested, the more the truth came to light. And then there was the girl, her. I had been waiting for this moment, for the point where she too would see the man she had built her world around for what he truly was. I knew it wouldn't take long. She had been blind to everything, swept up in the romance of it all, but now reality was setting in. He had been lying to her, just like he had lied to me. But what she didn't know was that I had already set the stage for her to find out the truth. One simple, anonymous message was all it would take. The message I sent her wasn't aggressive or accusatory. It was simple, direct. I didn't need to drag her into a war, but I also wasn't going to let her remain in the illusion of perfection he had sold her. She deserved to see him for who he truly was. The message was short, something like, "I'm not sure if you know about the discrepancies in his career, or the lies he told me. You should ask him about the business dealings he's been hiding." I didn't sign my name. I didn't have to. The question would be enough to plant doubt. She would ask him. And when she did, everything would fall apart. I watched from a distance as the relationship, which had seemed so solid, began to crack. At first she was defensive, denying the truth, but slowly, like a seed taking root, the doubt began to grow. Every time he tried to cover up a mistake, every time he made another excuse, she started to question him. She started to pull away, just enough for him to feel the weight of his own lies. And in the meantime, I was watching his world implode. His work was falling apart. His colleagues were distancing themselves. Clients were withdrawing. The very thing he had built his entire identity on was slipping through his fingers. But this wasn't enough. I wanted him to feel what I felt, to truly understand the depth of betrayal he had put me through. So I took it further. I had one last card to play, something that would not only ruin his reputation, but also strip away the facade of his life. I'd kept all the receipts, all the evidence of his deceit, emails, screenshots, texts. I knew exactly how to use them. His family, his friends, the ones who had always believed his lies, they were about to learn the truth. And once they did, there would be no going back. I sent it all. To everyone. His mother, his closest friends, the people who had built him up to be the person he pretended to be. I didn't need to say a word. The evidence spoke for itself. And that was when the true destruction began. His phone started ringing off the hook with questions. People he had known for years were calling him, demanding answers. His world, the one he thought he could control, was unraveling in real time. I didn't speak to him. I didn't need to. His shame was louder than any words I could have said. His silence, the way he avoided me, spoke volumes. It was amazing how quickly the facade could shatter. Once the truth started spilling out, people began to see him for what he really was, a man who lived in a bubble of lies, deceit, and half-truths. But there was one thing I hadn't counted on, him coming to me, looking for closure. He showed up at my door, disheveled and broken, the same way he had months ago when he first begged me to take him back. The difference now? This time, there was no love in my heart for him. No desire to make things right. He stood there, hands trembling, as he searched for the words to explain himself. "You don't understand," he pleaded. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It just got out of hand." I raised an eyebrow, staring at him with a cool detachment. "Out of hand? You ruined my life, and now you're playing the victim?" He tried to come closer, but I stopped him with a sharp motion. "No, you don't get to touch me anymore. You don't get to apologize or make excuses, not after everything you've done." His face twisted with frustration and guilt. "I didn't want to hurt you, I really didn't, but everything just seemed to fall apart." I scoffed, crossing my arms. "You thought I wouldn't find out. You thought you could walk away without any consequences. You thought I'd just sit back and let you destroy everything I built." He stayed silent, his eyes scanning the ground, not knowing what to say anymore. I took a step forward, my voice steady but cold. "You left me for her, but you didn't count on me being stronger than you thought. You didn't count on me taking everything you thought you could walk away with." He looked up at me, eyes wide with shock. "What are you talking about?" I smiled. It wasn't a smile of affection or anything resembling warmth. It was the smile of someone who had taken control of their own narrative, someone who had finally stopped caring. "The money," I said. "The business, everything that you thought you could take from me, I took it all. I made sure that you would never be able to walk away and just move on with your life like nothing happened." His face went pale as realization hit him. You took it all? You destroyed everything?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "I made sure that you'd never find peace again, not after what you did to me." I could see the panic setting in. The man who had once held all the power, the man who had manipulated so many people, was now the one left helpless. But there was no satisfaction in my heart. No joy. Just an emptiness that had settled in long ago when I realized I had no choice but to destroy him. "I didn't think you'd go this far," he whispered. "You pushed me to it," I said, my voice quiet but firm. The weeks following our confrontation were surreal. I watched as he struggled to regain any semblance of the life he had built, now shattered and spread across the internet, in his bank accounts, and even in his relationships. But it wasn't the public humiliation that got to him. It was the silence. The silence from me. The silence from his friends. The silence from the people who had once adored him. At first, he tried to reach out. Texts, calls, emails. Each one was a desperate plea for me to forgive him, for me to let it all go and just move on. But I was smarter than that now. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was beyond that. The moment I saw him for who he truly was, everything changed. He was just a man, a flawed, weak man, and I was done being his punching bag. Done allowing him to manipulate me. It was time for him to pay. But I needed to be patient. Revenge isn't about rushing. It's about making every move count. I wasn't going to waste my time on him. Not when I could be doing so much more. The business I had taken from him, the one he had thought would fall into his lap just because he had a charming smile and a silver tongue, I turned it into something even bigger. I doubled down. I expanded. I made sure that everyone knew it was mine now, not his. He tried to fight back, of course. the legal threats, the court orders. But he had no case. Every move he made just dug him deeper. And every move I made pulled me further away from him, and closer to everything I had ever wanted. One night, I received an unexpected call. It was from a journalist. He had heard the whispers about what had happened between me and him and wanted to get the full story. Apparently, the media was starting to catch on to the drama, and my story was just the one people wanted to hear. I knew this was my chance. I agreed to meet him. We met at a small coffee shop. It was quiet, with only a few people scattered around. The perfect place for a quiet conversation. He was a tall man with sharp features, the kind of journalist who thrived on uncovering the truth, no matter how ugly it might be. I knew this was going to work in my favor. As soon as I sat down, he asked the question I knew was coming. "Can you tell me what happened?" I leaned back in my chair, sipping my coffee as I gave him a small, almost bored smile. "It's simple, really," I said, my voice calm. "I was married to him, he promised me the world, and then, when I gave everything I had to help him build his career, he walked away, he left me for her." The journalist took notes, watching me carefully. But I could see the flicker of recognition in his eyes. He knew there was more to this story than a simple betrayal. "But you didn't just walk away, did you?" he asked. I shook my head, my smile widening. "No," I said softly. "I didn't. I took everything he held dear, his career, his friends, his reputation, everything he built with his lies, and I made sure it all came crumbling down." He looked at me, his eyes narrowing. "How?" I leaned forward slightly, watching as he hung on every word. "You see," I said, "he thought he could use me. He thought I was just some woman who would sit quietly while he played his games. But he made a mistake. He underestimated me. And when he walked away, I made sure he could never walk back. After I took back everything he stole from me, there was only one thing left to do: wait for the end." Time passed. His life continued to unravel, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction watching it all unfold smoothly and steadily. Each of his new failures was like music to my ears. But not because I was angry. No, I had calmed down a long time ago. It was just retribution for his actions. How could he have thought he would live without paying for everything he did? How could he think that deceit and betrayal would lead him to happiness? All of his friends, the ones he thought he could rely on, started to leave. And not because I turned them against him, but because in their minds, the true image of this man became clear. What he couldn't hide, his lies, his treachery, became obvious. Soon even his family started to lose respect for him. The process was slow, but absolutely inevitable. I watched from the sidelines, knowing that I didn't need to do anything but let it all happen. He destroyed himself with his own hands. While he struggled to rebuild his life, I quietly but confidently moved forward. The business I took from him thrived. I not only restored my reputation, but I built so much more. His downfall became my victory. And I never regretted it. No, I even took pride in it. Because I knew, if I hadn't done this, if I hadn't taken back what he stole from me, he would have kept stepping on those who trusted him, sacrificing them for his goals. And I, perhaps, would have been next. But now everything had changed. I was strong. I was sure of myself. A few months later, I met someone new. He was different. He valued me for who I was, not for what I could give him. And when he told me he loved me, I didn't doubt him. He didn't try to manipulate me, didn't try to take advantage of what I could offer. He was just there. It was strange, but at some point I realized that I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like the person I had always been meant to be. Not someone who would take second place to anyone, not even to the person I once thought was the love of my life. Meanwhile, his life continued to collapse. He tried to build something with someone new, but she wasn't the woman he left me for. He tried to rebuild his career, but every attempt failed. At some point, I almost felt sorry for him. His life, once full of potential, was now nothing but rubble. And the sad part was, he had done it to himself. But I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't interested in pity. I was stronger than that now. A few months passed, and I saw him again. He was a shell of the man I once knew. The arrogance was gone. The confidence? Shattered. He came to me, apologizing, begging for forgiveness, as though I could erase the pain he caused with a few words. But I didn't need his apology. I had already taken everything he held dear. His career, his friends, his pride. And now he was just another man who had underestimated me. I watched him walk away, defeated. And for the first time in a long while, I felt peace. Not happiness, not joy, but peace. Because I knew I had won. I had taken back what was rightfully mine, my dignity, my strength, and my sense of self-worth. And as for him, he was just a memory. A broken memory, and I wasn't going to let him haunt me anymore. Weeks passed since the day he walked away. I kept my distance, just as I had promised myself I would. I didn't call him, I didn't chase him. I refused to be the one who begged. But every day, I felt the shift. I saw his life crumble, slowly and steadily, and it was impossible not to feel a sense of satisfaction. People started to notice. His friends, the ones who used to support him unconditionally, began to ask questions. The whispers turned into full-blown conversations, and soon, no one was willing to stand by him. They saw him for what he truly was, a liar, a cheater, someone who thought he could have it all. But now, his perfect life was slipping through his fingers like water. It was the job that really shook him. I'd made sure that the rumors about him spread far and wide, from the boardroom to the break room. His colleagues started distancing themselves from him, and his bosses began questioning his integrity. It was only a matter of time before they'd have no choice but to let him go. And then there was her. The one he'd left me for. She thought she was the one who had won, that she had gotten the prize. But what she didn't realize was that she was just a pawn in this game. I knew it wasn't just about him anymore. It was about making sure that he never, ever had the life he thought he deserved. I started subtly weaving myself into her world. I didn't need to do it overtly, no, that would be too obvious. I didn't need to show up at her doorstep or make a scene. Instead, I took the quiet route. I shared a post here and there. A photo. A quote. A reminder to everyone, including her, that I was still very much a part of the narrative. She thought she had everything, but the reality was that she was walking on a tightrope. Her every step, her every word, was now being scrutinized. It wasn't long before the cracks began to show. She called me once, her voice shaking with the panic of someone who realized they weren't as secure as they thought they were. She tried to make me feel small, as if I was still the one who had lost. But it was clear, I was no longer the one on the receiving end of hurt. She was. And I had no intention of stopping. I remember the exact moment when everything changed for her. It was a work event, one of those company celebrations that were supposed to bring everyone together. But it was more than that for me. I saw it as an opportunity, and I wasn't about to let it slip. I showed up. Not with a grand entrance, but subtly. I didn't need to draw attention to myself. No, I was there to plant the seeds. I caught her off guard when she saw me, her face going pale as I casually approached her, a knowing smile on my lips. She tried to act unfazed to keep up appearances, but I could see the cracks. And I could feel the power shifting. I knew exactly what I was doing. Slowly, quietly, I made sure everyone at the event knew the truth about her, about the man she thought she was winning. I shared the stories, the whispers, the things that people had forgotten but I had never let go. I wasn't even angry. I wasn't trying to get revenge. I was just reminding everyone of the truth. By the end of the night, she was in tears. She wasn't the one who had the upper hand anymore. Her world was crumbling around her, just like his had. And I, the one he had thought he could leave behind, was standing tall. Strong. Untouched. When I saw him again, he was nothing more than a shadow of the man I had once loved. The arrogance was gone. The confidence? Shattered. He came to me, apologizing, trying to fix things. But I wasn't interested in his apologies. I wasn't interested in his guilt. Because I had already taken everything from him, just as he had taken everything from me. And in the end, I was the one who walked away victorious.